Hey guys, welcome to Series World. Today I'm going to explain an erotic thriller series called Dark Desire from 2020. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The 8th episode opens with Esteban dragging an unconscious body away. Then we see Alma, who is talking to her therapist. Alma denies to her therapist about Darío being a killer, but she then hesitates that if Esteban is right, then she caused Brenda's death. Her therapist tells her to calm down and put her thoughts in order, but Alma blames herself, saying that she shouldn't have let Esteban meet Darío in the motel. Her therapist doesn't understand what she is talking about and asks her what it is about. Alma doesn't answer and blames herself for going with the plan. She gets worried about whether anything will happen to Darío. The therapist tells her to calm down and discusses two options that Alma has now. The first one is that as Esteban is a police officer, his way of thinking is affecting Alma, and maybe the answer is simpler than that. The second one is, if it's true, she has to talk to the police instead of the therapist. Right at the moment, Alma gets a text saying the job is done. Seeing this, she gets up, goes to the toilet, and starts vomiting. The scene changes to Leonardo, who is getting ready to leave. He starts remembering yesterday's night and Alma's rejection towards his advancements, but later made moves on him herself. He also remembers getting up in the middle of the night and seeing Alma sneak into the house from outside. The story comes back to Alma, who is getting fresh in the washroom after vomiting. She gets flashbacks about discussing the plan with Esteban earlier in the day. Esteban tells Alma that after this is over, Darío won't bother her or Leonardo again. Alma then requests him not to do anything crazy, and Esteban assures her. The scene cuts, and Edith is telling Leonardo about Darío not answering the call. But Leonardo seems to be drowned in his thoughts and asks what she is talking about. He finally understands and tells her to call him tomorrow. Edith starts leaving, but Leonardo stops her and asks her how to know if a woman is cheating. Edith gets annoyed, but Leonardo pushes her for an answer. The scene changes back to Alma, who is getting ready to leave the therapist's place. The therapist then stops her and tries to calm her down. She also suggests that she should think about talking to the police, and maybe that's the only answer. Hearing this, Alma doesn't reply and leaves. The story shifts back to Leonardo, who is discussing with Edith how he feels that Alma is cheating on him. He also adds that when they make love, Alma seems to feel guilty and nervous, as if she is hiding something. Hearing this, Edith says that it's like Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Telltale Heart, but Leonardo doesn't understand. Edith then tells the story is of a criminal who gives himself away to the police because he starts being delusional about the dead body hidden under his floor. Leonardo doesn't like these metaphors and asks her to tell if she thinks Alma is cheating. She replies that he might be just making up stories that don't exist. The background shifts to Esteban, who has put a body inside the car's trunk and driving away from the hotel. The scene cuts to Zoe, who is watching a video on how the human heart works while lying in her bed. She then remembers how Darío told her that he thinks she is a nice girl and starts smiling to herself. She also recalls Darío telling her that he would call her. While she is thinking about this, Alma comes back home and calls for Zoe and Leonardo. As nobody responds, she goes to her room and closes the door. Alma then calls Esteban, but he doesn't pick up. So, she leaves a voicemail telling him she will call him later. As if he calls her, Leonardo might suspect something. Just at that moment, Leonardo overhears all of this from the other side of the room. Alma turns around and sees the door open. She then calls Zoe to see if she has entered, but doesn't get any response. The scene cuts to Esteban dragging away the body from the trunk. He is having flashbacks to when he pushed Dario's head in the tub again and again, even warning him not to mess with Alma. In the meantime, Dario's mother is having nightmares from the time when she tried to kill Darío when he was a baby. The sister arrives, and Dario's mom repeatedly tells her, frantically, that her son is dead. The sister tries to comfort her and calls Darío. Esteban sees Dario's phone ringing and turns it off. The scene cuts to Leonardo sitting at the dinner table with Edgar Allan Poe's book. When Zoe asks him about it, he looks at Alma and says that sometimes people do things that they never did before. Zoe doesn't understand and asks Alma if anything has happened. Leonardo then starts reading from the story, The Telltale Heart, and says how the heart gives away the truth even if it's buried deep. Hearing this, Alma leaves the table, saying she has to get some bread as an excuse. Leonardo follows her to the kitchen and asks if she has talked to Esteban. He takes the bread knife from her hands and starts cutting the bread. He asks again if she has talked to Esteban because he couldn't reach him. Alma replies that she didn't talk to him. At night, when everyone is asleep, Alma wakes up and checks if Leonardo is asleep. She then gets ready and leaves to meet Esteban on their house balcony. She asks him what he did to Darío, and he points at Dario's limp body floating in their pool. She wakes up from the nightmare but sees Leonardo standing in front of her telling her to confess. Just as she tries to say something, it turns out to be a nightmare again. In the morning, Leonardo wakes up listening to the alarm and sees that Alma is not there. He looks for her in the house, but she is not present. Alma is then seen banging on Esteban's garage door, and his employee opens the door. She barges in looking for Darío. Meanwhile, Esteban is seen leaving a body in a big black bag in the forest and drives back. Leonardo is seen again being frantic and calling Alma. Zoe is constantly asking him about what is happening right now. Leonardo then notices that Alma left her phone in the house. He then starts checking her phone, but Zoe tries to stop him from doing this. But Leonardo tells her that her mom is cheating on him. Zoe gets shocked and asks with whom. But Leonardo doesn't reply and goes upstairs to call. Zoe also follows him upstairs. The scene changes to Alma, and she tells Esteban's employee not to tell him that she came here. She then starts looking around, and the phone starts ringing. The employee picks up the call, and it's from Leonardo. He asks the employee about where Esteban is. He tells him that he is not here, but tries to add that Leonardo can talk to Alma, but Alma stops him from saying this. Leonardo still pushes the employee to know where Esteban is now, but he assures him that he doesn't know. He also adds that Esteban comes and goes all the time. Leonardo then hangs up the phone, telling the employee not to tell Esteban that he has called. After finishing the call, the employee asks Alma why he should lie to his boss, as this might get him fired. But Alma assures him that nothing will happen to him, and reminds him not to say anything at all. The background changes to Lucinda, Dario's mother. The sister is telling the convent mother about how Lucinda is acting strange and telling her that Darío is dead. The convent mother tells her not to worry, as Lucinda just had a high fever, and that's why she is saying all of this. But Sister Rosalba tells her that Darío is not picking up his phone, which is unlike him. Lucinda replies suddenly that he is dead, and that's why he is not picking up. But the convent mother gently tells her not to say such things. The scene changes once more, and Zoe is in her classroom taking notes while her teacher describes various heart diseases and patients. He first talks about a 45-year-old female patient with a heart murmur, who had a heart attack due to anxiety. We then see Alma driving and having flashbacks of everything that happened after meeting Darío. The second patient is a 48-year-old male who came to the hospital after a fight due to cardiac pain and shortness of breath. Esteban is seen driving and remembering how he attacked Darío and spent time with Brenda. The last patient is a 50-year-old male who was stabbed with a knife and had a massive hemorrhage, and Leonardo is seen driving and thinking about how guilty Alma seemed during intimate moments. He is also carrying a gun. The scene shifts to the classroom where Alma's substitute teacher is discussing how a killer comes to be. She poses the question of whether killers are born or made. Meanwhile, Alma drives to Dario's workshop. Despite the locked doors, she bangs and calls his name. Esteban returns to his bar, takes a drink, and calls Alma to apologize for not calling earlier. Just as he is about to speak further, Leonardo appears holding her phone. The focus switches back to Alma, who is experiencing flashbacks of her time with Darío, leading her to cry and drive away. As she reverses, she accidentally hits someone with her car, discovering it is Darío lying injured on the road. The scene changes again to Leonardo, who is pointing the gun at Esteban and saying that 10 years ago he crippled him, but today, he will kill him. The episode ends with Leonardo asking Esteban why he would do this to his wife, suspecting they are having an affair. To watch more explanations of these kinds of series, click on the videos on your screen. And don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last, thanks for watching.